In this tutorial in CyberLink Power Director, we're going to show you how you can add an image to the side of a moving vehicle two different ways. One is using motion tracking and the other is manual. This comes as a request of one of my subscribers. We're going to show you how to fine-tune motion tracking or fine-tune the placement of the image on the vehicle as well. Now, the easiest way to do this is when you have a vehicle that's moving sideways, left to right or right to left, perpendicular to the camera. This shot is a lot more difficult, and we picked it to show you the limitations. When I play this, you see the vehicle. It's on the sand, and you have this cloud of dust, and it's changing its perspective, it's changing its rotation. We have only a limited number of frames that we can actually use this effectively on. But let's show you what we can do with the tool. The other thing I have in the other track is this image. So we're going to take it and drag it down on track number 2 from our media room. And then we'll stretch that out to make it match the duration of the video. Then what I want to do is scale it down a little bit, and we'll go back to the first frame. Let's say we want it on the side panel of the vehicle, both for front and rear doors. So we'll scale it down a little bit, and then we'll rotate it, something like that. And let's say this is approximately what we're looking at. We have to motion track it or we have to move it, otherwise it will stay in one place and the vehicle will simply move and do its own thing. So how do we do that? Well, we click on the track that contains our image and click on the Edit button. And then we look at the options in the upper left on the left control panel, and we click on the most right one called Tracking. Now we have a guide screen that comes up to tell us how to do that. I'm going to click on OK. So I'm going to also click on the box that says Adjust Size with Tracked Object. Now what are we going to track? I've done this a couple of times in practice, and I've discovered that the thing I want to track is going to be this little silver image here. It tracks pretty decent with that. So now I have it placed, I have my tracking object. I'm going to click on the track icon on the left panel, my control panel. And it will attempt to track it as best as it can. And you notice it stopped pretty rapidly. Why? Because it will lose it in the dust. Here's what it looks like. It seems to kind of blow up when it completely loses what it is supposed to track. So what I'm going to do is move in my project until I get to the place where it really loses itself. That might be right here into the dust cloud here, because you couldn't see it anyway because of the cloud. So we'll go about there, and I'm going to take my image and use Control T to split it right there, and then I'll delete the second half. Don't need that. So we're going to track it until it gets into the dust cloud. Now we could also go to the end, and we will later, and we can put it on the other side when it comes out of the dust cloud. But let's focus on this one first of all. So we have it starting out okay, but you notice that we have a problem because the rotation is something that the tracking doesn't take into account. How do we compensate for that? I'm going to click on the image, click on Edit. It will want to do tracking again. I'll close that out. But I'm going to turn to the image option on the upper left side. And there I'm going to click on Advanced. Now here you see all the keyframes that the motion tracker created. Every single frame has a keyframe. We're going to go to the beginning where it looks pretty decent. And I'm actually going to change it a little even on the first frame because it doesn't look quite like what I want. I'm going to click a dot by rotation. We'll set a rotation value. And when it comes to rotation, you can move it manually, but you can move it with a ball. But for the greatest precision, I recommend using the up and down arrows. So I'm going to use the up arrow. Looks like I want the down arrow. And that's pretty good to what I want, right about there. Now, I don't want to track every frame because that would be jerky. So I'll move ahead just a number of frames and see if that seems to be what I want. I like that one there. That's good. I'm going to just set a keyframe. Don't have to. I'll click over here. Now the rotation's off a bit. I'll go back to my rotation value and looks like I want up arrow. And we'll move over here. Let's see, go back to rotation. Down a bit, I think. Now, if you did this on every single frame, it probably would look jerky when you're done. Okay, we'll move over here. Looks like we need to go the other direction. And here, see, it's not the height I want, but if I change the height here on this one, the keyframe before and after will be different. So we'll show you a different way to do that without using motion tracking if you want that kind of adjustment. And this one, that's almost good enough. Okay, then I'll click on OK. And let's see if this looks a little better with rotation. So we've able to adjust for that, not too badly, using the combination of motion tracking and then further editing. Now let's go back to the place where it comes out of the dust cloud. I will close this out and I will drag it down again for this segment of the video. And this time we're not going to use motion tracking. We'll do it the manual way. And this is when you need maximum precision. So I'm going to go again to the first frame of this by pressing the home key. And we'll rotate it. Okay, now what I want to do if I'm going to do this manually is I want to go into my edit mode. I want to go to advanced. And if I wanted to do this right, I would probably also change the opacity value so it kind of fades in after the dust clears. I'm not going to do that for the sake of simplicity for the lesson. So I'm going to set all three values, position, scale, and rotation here. Then I'll move over a number of keyframes and just manually start, and then we'll change it by tweaking it. And I might even want to change the scale. Here's I can use the up and down on either the height or width because they're locked together to maintain my aspect ratio. We'll move over here a bit. And I'll start with the mouse, but I won't stay with the mouse. And let's go to the other direction here. Does it need to be slightly bigger? I think it might. And we'll move here. Again, I like the divide and conquer where you take these elements and you change them. Now, if you run into an area where it's sticking on the line, hold the Alt key down when you move it, and it automatically will not pay attention to those sticky lines. And we'll change the rotation just a little bit here, maybe not quite that much. And we'll move over here and keep the enlargement going up. I won't be too precise. You get the idea here. And this is actually quite easier on this side because it's much more perpendicular to the camera. So let's see what that looks like. Now, let me give you one more tip before we close this out. If I were doing this in real life, I would change the magnification from fit to 300 or 400%, probably maximum I could get. And then when I'm editing these, that gives me a much easier way to identify the proportion I want, the rotation I want, and the scale that I want on my image to make it so it's as consistent as possible. So don't be afraid to edit in the magnified mode. It gives you a lot more control over your image. Play a little bit. Again, it's not perfect. It gives you an idea how you can do maximum control over image position when you're trying to place an image on a moving object in CyberLink PowerDirector.